Good morning. It is Tuesday, December 30th. Kyle left me hanging today. I think he's already starting New Year's celebrations early, but that's fine because I have a guest today. I'm with the one and only Brian Kramer from Cars Commerce to try his best not to get in trouble before the end of this year. He made a pact that he was going to try not to get in any trouble until January 1st, 2026. Rounding the corner on the new year. I can't believe it. Like, everybody is in full sale mode, especially all of our dealer friends who are like this close to like a number one spot. Everyone's playing the game where they're trying to sell as much. And, you know, along with the the parameters of the programs, maybe keep a few things secret until the last minute so they can jump out and be first. You know who you are. I'm just going to put that out there. You know who you are. But before we bring Brian up, I just want to thank again our friends at Mia who have been an amazing sponsor for the show this month. And every dealership has the one customer who will sit on hold forever, which is pretty sweet, but also pretty sure that's not the loyalty metric that we want to be measuring. This is where Mia comes in, your dealership's 24/7 AI super employee built by car people for car people. No menus, no scripts, no press 2 for anything. In under 2 seconds, she's already helping, checking inventory, booking appointments, and integrating into 35 plus dealer systems so everything stays clean and connected. Somewhere out there, a customer is still trapped in a phone tree. Don't let it be yours. Again, thank you to our friends at Mia. I don't think I need to hang on any longer. I think we need to bring Brian Kramer into this call because I was just with him backstage and he looks better on camera than I think I've ever seen him look. Brian, come look at this man.
Look older.
Do you want the glasses add a year or two? But the lighting really, I mean, the lighting is so good it makes you look like you have makeup.
Well,
does that make sense?
Well, maybe I did.
He's like, maybe I do. Maybe I do. I seen you walking around with that compact. You know, it's like a very Jim Fitzpatrick thing to do. You know, you got the little powder compact. Those TV guys have it dialed in. They always look so good. And I'm like looking greasy. You know what I mean? Like, but they're dialed in. I'm just trying to keep my beard under control. Brian, thanks for joining us today.
And it's humid down here in Florida.
It is. You know, it is. I wouldn't know anything about humidity right now in upstate New York. It is so dry all winter long that, you know, whenever I come to Florida, fortunately, I get to travel a good bit. So it only takes a day or two in the humid weather down in Florida or somewhere warm that your body is like, oh, yeah, this is how I'm supposed to work. So I guess I understand why people
should do a used vehicle acquisition live on location down here.
Whatever it takes to get me down to Florida for another day or two. We'll do it. But Brian, this week is a lot of our 2026 strategy sessions as we're taking all these segments, whether it's the people side of the business, the sales side, used car acquisition, which is what we're going to talk about today. And we're trying to give dealers some insights into what has been happening in the end part of 2025 and what you think the predictive index is looking like and what they're going to be dealing with over the next year, specifically in Q1, right? Like, we can talk about Q3 or 4, but if we've learned anything from the last several years, it's like we can pretend we have some idea, but we know we don't have any idea. So you have a great purview on the industry, seeing data sets across thousands of dealers, being on the ground and being part of a lot of conversations with dealerships directly. So I thought it'd be great to tap into that today to talk about what dealers should be expecting in Q1 of 2026. So why don't you just start off by telling us how you've seen the plane land this year? I know it's the 30th, but how have you seen the plane land? And what do you feel like the first few steps are going to be next year?
Well, I would say that this is the bottom of, for the last 5 years, and for the next 5 years, we just came out of the bottom of what the used car supply was going to be, because you're typically dealing with, whatever happened 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, we were still in COVID, right? And that we were at the bottom of the production in terms of with the chip shortage and all that sort of thing. So we're now coming back up in terms of what has happened on the SAR, the seasonally adjusted annualized rate of sales, as to what's going to be coming back into the market. What's coming back into the market is going to be a little bit different, though, than what we've seen in the past, because leasing went down big time. But what went up was EV leasing. So you're going to see an inordinate share from rental car companies, and because that's what was being built, of EVs coming back into the market. So even though a lot of dealers haven't leaned in maybe as much as some people would like, OEMs specifically, on the EV front, dealers aren't going to have a choice in 2026 in terms of not playing the EV game when it comes.
Because you're saying they're not going to have a choice because that's what there's going to be to buy, is what
Correct.
You're saying.
And that's what, from an affordability standpoint, that's what's going to be available, a much bigger share. New cars is it's like 13% of the overall market. But when you take a look to see what it's going to be on used cars going into next year, from what it looks like, it's going to be close to that or higher. Whereas the 13% has been artificially enhanced, let's say, because of incentives and tax rebates and all those things. But the reality of it is, there's just a lot more vehicles coming off of lease, and that trend is going to continue. And there's still going to be the amount of 0 to 3-year-old vehicles isn't like it's going to double in the next year. The other thing that I would say is the dealers that are winning have shifted their focus from look to book. What percentage of cars are they taking in as a percentage of appraisals to, appraisal to sales ratio? If I sell 100 cars, how many cars did I appraise? You should be appraising 200 cars. There's a lot more dealers that are now realizing, oh, wow, there's a whole different world on sight unseen appraisals on the internet of vehicles that we weren't taking in on trade. And I think that Carvana has really, really taken the lead on that. And I think that if there's anything that I can say, the dealers that are winning are realizing that, okay, there's 20% of vehicles on the high side that they're outliers. We're not going to be able to maybe be as precise on. Then maybe there's 20% on the bottom, but there's really 60%, and some would even say 70% that we can automate. And I think that same shift, just like with AI, it's not like every single 100% of your calls are going to get handled by an AI agent, but there's a percentage that should be handled by an AI agent, and appraisals are the same way.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we've been talking about on the call side, it's interesting you say that, because you've been working with our friends at Mia, and like there are things happening at your dealership and on your website in a time when you're never going to respond, or you're never going to pick up a call, or you're never going to be able to give a price. And like what I hear you saying is like just finding every way possible to get as many looks as you can through an automated system is really how dealers can win more, I guess.
I was trying to schedule a service for my, I drive an Ineos, right? So I got to go 2.5 hours to get an oil change.
I didn't know that. Those things are super cool.
And I love it. And it's got a bunch of quirks, but it had a bunch of software updates and a bunch of things. I'm running late. It's like a week and a half ago. I call up there and I get put into the service manager's voicemail. So I keep on driving.
Worst place to be.
It says, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I turn right back around. And then as soon as I get home, he calls me. And it ended up being amazing because they came to me remotely 2.5 hours.
They took care of you. Yeah. Yeah.
It was really strong, but I would have gladly dealt with AI because I had a very simple question. I just wanted to know, if I show up, can you still get me in, or am I going to have to drive 5 hours for nothing? And I would have much rather dealt with AI at that point because it's a simple, not complex question.
Right. It's literally a database question.
Yeah. And that's kind of what an appraisal is. If you get the right information up front, I think the dealers, I used to be this way, overcomplicate what an appraisal is. Why is it that Carvana can give somebody an instant appraisal? And why are we allowing them to get your client's data by letting them bounce off your website? They get 22 million unique visitors a year. And those people aren't going there to look for a refrigerator. They want to know what their car is worth.
I think Carvana and CarMax have become a very standard practice, because even like you mentioned AI, and you and I have talked at length about how people are now searching for things and navigating the process. And without a doubt, if you go into any AI platform right now, whether it's Gemini, GPT, Claude, you can choose it. And you say, what's the best way for me to get a value on what my car is worth? I want to make sure I have the right price. It's going to give you, say, go to Carvana.com. It's going to say, go to CarMax.com. And then it might tell you to go to a local dealer site that has the same make that you have, right? If I have a Ford, it's going to say, check a Ford dealership. And so it's unavoidable that people are doing that anyway. And the days where like people don't think that way are rapidly coming to a close.
So we see it as we're doing, our AI study just came out recently, and we're seeing the citations of what is ChatGPT or Gemini or whoever, what are they referencing? And, lo and behold, by far, shameless plug, cars.com Dealer Rater are leading the charge on that because of the editorial content and Dealer Rater reviews. But what those AI search engines are doing is they're almost fact checking the dealer's websites. So they'll take a look at a Dealer Inspire website and then they'll fact check it. If the dealer's making this claim, is it substantiated on Dealer Rater, Reddit, or all these user generated content places? So I think that if you're going to put something on there, you need to back it up with receipts in 2026. You can't just say, hey, we're the best. We gave you a 60
lowest prices. Yeah. Right, because and I mean this is like a tangential topic, but super important because in thinking about what a dealers need to be thinking about, even with your used car prices, we give the best car, highest price for your trade, right? That's a claim we see all over. We'll buy your
Or
car, we'll give you
$5,000 over the market.
right, another great one, right? And so now the way AI benchmarks that dealers, and you should really be paying attention because now if I can go into Google reviews, into Reddit, which you're probably not doing, by the way, and some random person in Reddit is like, I went to this dealership, they said this, and actually their price was below what I got the best price from CarMax. I got the best price from Carvana. They were actually way under. All it takes is a few of those, and GPT is going to throttle you so hard you won't even know what happened. And you won't even understand why performance is dipping on your website and why things happen. But that is something, I think that's like advanced class. People who are thinking that way, I'm so glad that you all released that report, because you and I were talking about this happening. We didn't have the data to prove it, but we like the things we were reading. Like when were we in Vegas at NAMED? I can't even remember. It was like October, November.
Yeah, it was October.
And we were like, this is actually happening. This is how it's working. And now you have the data to prove it. So I think heading into next year, every savvy dealer needs to be thinking, how is potentially what I'm saying on my website, what I'm saying in my social media, what consumers are actually experiencing, how are those things either matched up or at odds? Because that is going to affect my ability to acquire used cars or at least get a lot of looks.
And if I was to anchor it with one word or one theme, I'll use a word that's near and dear to both our hearts, and that's clarity.
Yes.
And when what this study that we did, and you can check it out on carscommerce.inc, the study that we did, it's very fascinating, the rate of change and how quickly everything is being adopted. But if you have, this is something I see all the time on everybody's websites, not just our Dealer Inspire websites, that if you've got multiple calls to action or CTAs for trades, and you have one, 3 or 4 different vendors, which is not uncommon. When the AI agent for whoever is now searching for Chat GPT, Perplexity, Gemini, they're searching your website, or they're searching to see who do they serve up in that 1 0-click search on AI overviews. If you have multiple ones, that's confusing to the bot. It'll just, kick you
Keep
off
moving.
and then it'll go to the next one.
Yeah.
Because you have to be more appealing. And it'll happen at some point this year where you have to be more appealing to agents than to humans. And if you have multiple CTAs, obviously I'm biased towards AccuTrade, but whatever you go with, stick with one and have one committed workflow that has a lot of clarity and a lot of simplicity. That's what's going to win in 2026.
I'm just in my mind, every website that a lot of VDPs, a lot of SRPs, where you land on the site and there are 5 calls to action all in a row. And some of the calls to action are actually to do the same thing, right? Get approved now, get financing. It's like all of these things. A few reasons for this. The agents, right, want a very clear experience so they can say, this is the best result to send out my user, because their interest is that the user gets the best information the first time. Same playbook of why Google serves up the best information first. I don't want my users running around. And if I'm a reliable source, they'll come back again and again and again. But secondly, some people might be familiar with the word compute and know that servers are the hot commodity, and all these AI companies are trying to say, how can I deliver the best results with the lowest tax on my compute? And the more complicated it is to look around, the agent will literally just bail on your site and be like, nope, too much work. I'm going to go to the next one.
Even if you're the best price, it will do that.
That's right. That's right. Even if they're doing so. What a reinvention of value propositions we're going through right now, right? Because
it's going to be super, super exciting, and it's happening like all at once. Yes. And I don't think that enough people are talking about it, but I mean, we're seeing it, and we saw the results clearly in that study, and it was eye-opening. And if it's anything different from what it was from the beginning of 2025 until when we did the study, I think at the beginning of Q4, if that trend continues, it's going to be unrecognizable by Q2 or Q3 of 2026.
And that velocity of change is just going to increase. Brian, in our last kind of minutes here, what are some ground ball things that dealers can be doing, to get in the game and take a few steps in the right direction, right? You can't fix everything at once, but what are a few steps?
So I would start with your website, and I would start with making sure that all of your messaging is clear. Make sure there's not going to dead links or anything like that, because your website is currently being indexed by these AI chatbots as to what the user experience looks like, and it's grading you whether you know it or not. you need to make sure if it's a range or if it's an exact value that you're giving information, you're answering the user's question when they're going through, and that it's very clear. And you need to see any place you can remove friction, you need to make sure that you're removing it. And most importantly, you need to make sure that whatever claim you're making or whatever that call to action is, that when the client arrives at your dealership, that you meet that promise that you made online. So if we're talking about trades, we're talking about acquisition. Oh, it's 3 simple steps, and all you have to do is come in and we'll write you a same day check and all the things. It's so simple. If that's not what people are saying, it's not just, you can't just control Google reviews, Facebook reviews now. It's the Better Business Bureau. It's the Reddit. Conversations that are happening on Twitter and everywhere, Reddit, everywhere else. If you're being fact checked, whether you know it or not. So you really need to be transparent. It's better to not make those claims at all and just take that stuff off your website, because you're going to get dinged, but you're not going to necessarily get dinged if you're not making those claims. So 2026 is all about simplicity.
Well, I think that a couple things, removing friction and doing what you say seems like age-old wisdom, but the velocity of that, there is nowhere to hide anymore. 2026, year of the great reckoning. Thank you, Brian Kramer.